All right. Who's ready for a backtesting tutorial? Today, we're going to look at how to reconstruct AVGV and CBYYX. Well, not exactly CBYYX, but rather construct a cat bond-like index fund into the past. But first, the usual disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. The content in this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Statements made are my opinions. Investing involves risk. Always do your own research. We'll start with the easy one for simulating in testful.io, and that would be Avantis All Equity Markets Value ETF. So, to know how to simulate it, we first need to know what's inside it. AVGV is a fund of funds, which means that its holdings are, well, other Avantis funds. So we can see here right now, we've got the Avantis US Large Cap Value ETF at about 37% of the portfolio, the Small Cap Value at about 18.5%, and so on and so forth. What we're going to do is round these numbers to the nearest multiple of 5, and then we will know exactly which dimensional funds we can pair to kind of break it down and analyze it. Okay, so we looked up what's actually inside AVGV, and right here in testful.io, I have created AVGV Deconstructed. So we've got each of the constituent positions in there, and it's rebalanced annually. But to simulate ad hoc rebalances that the Avantis folks may do throughout the year, we've put 5% absolute bands on this. So if any of these positions drifts by 5 percentage points or more from the target, then the whole portfolio gets rebalanced back to target. After that, I went in and looked at dimensionals lineup to create AVGV approximated. So for the Avantis large cap, I'd use dimensional large cap. For the Avantis small cap value, I use dimensional small cap value. The two firms have very similar methodologies for how they do quantitative factor investing, but dimensional has a much longer history, which benefits us for backtesting. The only odd one out here is the dimensional US targeted value portfolio, and I'm using that to substitute for the Avantis mid cap value fund, because the targeted value portfolio, although not explicitly a mid cap fund, targets that same kind of sector of the market, the larger small caps and the smaller mid caps, if you will. Now, we did a back test on this to see how things line up. You can see that AVGV is in blue. AVGV Deconstructed, which is the constituent funds of AVGV, is in red. They track very closely, but the deconstructed version is a little bit higher just by accident and such. But what I really like about the AVGV approximated is that it's actually a little bit worse. And I love this for back testing because you don't want to wear rose colored glasses, right? It's always cool when you can find something that tracks with an existing strategy, but it's a little bit worse. So it can temper your expectations and give you a little bit of buffer just in case the future doesn't work out quite as well as the past did. But you can see the correlations here are very high. So AVGV to its deconstructed form and to its approximated form, very good here. Now, this allows us to now go ahead and look at what AVGV approximated would do in the deeper past. And this is essentially the AVGV sleeve of the Atlas portfolio that I test. Well, at least for the first 26 years of it. We're about to get to the next part. But as you can see here, this is an AVGV approximated fund that is going to do a little bit worse than the actual AVGV, but that's okay because that actually helps temper our expectations for a backtest. So what I'm going to do next is actually save this as AVGV SIM. So I'm going to save the portfolio, but I'm also going to save the portfolio as a ticker. That means we can use this exact same thing in our backtest. So I'm going to save portfolio as a ticker here. All right. So sometimes you got to run the backtest again so that the name will update, because I do want to save it as AVGV SIM. And I'm going to set the refresh policy to a daily refresh, just like so. And now I can use AVGV SIM as a ticker, like my own custom fund. It's calling out a duplicate name there, but if we get rid of the label there, you can now see that we've got AVGV SIM as its own ticker. But how the heck did I get back to 50 plus years? Well, that's the fun part. Now that we've simulated AVGV back 26 years, it's time to take it the full 54. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by creating Archaic AVGV. So Archaic AVGV is only going to take the funds where we have a value index and then shove the rest into VXUS. And VXUS SIM will underestimate what international value returned because it's not going to have the value premium. So this is going to be a weakened form. And also because I'm going to be using the Vanguard indices for US value, that's also going to underestimate what Dimensional and Avantis's own methodologies do. So we are creating a weaker equity sleeve to do the back test. And I, again, prefer to do this kind of back testing because it tempers expectations and it gives you a worst case scenario for the past so that you can get a more realistic and grounded view of what these strategies can do. So, first, we've got large cap value. Well, that is VTV. So, VTV SIM, that's the Vanguard Large Cap Value Index. No quantitative management, just setting, stuff on low price to book. Then we need the next one, which is going to be small cap value, and that's at 20%. So that's VBR, small cap value. And we're going to put that at 20%, the large cap at 40%. And then we have mid cap value, actually. So VOESIM, not many people talk about it, but it's there for those who appreciate mid cap value. And that's going to be at just 5%. And so that leaves the other 35% to just put a VXUS SIM. So this is our Archaic AVGV. And we can now do a back test here. And we're going to save the ticker. And we're going to do it as Archaic AVGV. We're going to do a daily refresh on that and click save. Now, the fun part. Now that we have Archaic AVGV as a ticker, we have AVGV SIM as a ticker, we can create AVGV SIM extended by just doing AVGV SIM and backfilling it with Archaic AVGV. Ho, ho, ho. And let's see how it works. Ta-da! We've gone back 56.58 years. And what we will do with this is we can save this as a ticker itself. Now, this is a situation where sometimes, it gets a little cantankerous that that testful.io does. Sometimes you'll lose the ability to save a ticker down here on the backtest, but no worries. You can go to tactical allocation, put in the same thing, just like so. Backtest it. It's the same one. Save the strategy as a ticker with a daily refresh, and it's going to be AVGV Sim Extended. And I'm going to override the existing AVGV Sim Extended that we have, just for the sake of demonstration. And then we can come back to our main backtester and call up the familiar Atlas portfolio that everyone knows and loves. And that AVGV Sim Extended is going to be right up there. And voila, there you go. That's how to do AVGV. But what about cat bonds? How do you backtest CBYYX? Ah, that's the hard part. There's two ways to do this. First, you could get super lucky like me and come across a uh, spreadsheet of a download, I assume, from Bloomberg, and that matches the CBYYX chart and matches the Swiss Re Cat Bond Index Fund. And you can actually get that by paying for access to a Bloomberg terminal. But the spreadsheet I have is just from a moment in time that I lucked out on getting from someone. So it's not a repeatable process. I can send the spreadsheet to you. I like to use it as the back test because it is the Swiss Re Cat Bond Index, and it pastes so well onto the tail of CBYYX. But it's not actually something that you, the viewer, can just go and get without paying money or finding a very generous person to gift you a spreadsheet. And it does update every day. So my Swiss Re Cat Bond spreadsheet is forever going to be as of February 2026, and then the rest of it is just CBYYX. Or option two, you can go with a different ILS index that's mainly cat bonds, but some other insurance linked securities. And I'll show you how to do that and create a ticker called CATSIM all on your own. Artemis is a great site with everything you could ever want to know about cat bonds and other insurance linked securities. It is designed and coded with the cutting edge of 1999 web design. But don't let that archaic look fool you. I mean, this thing has incredible value and incredible information on it. So if you go over to the little handy dandy menu, it's got indices. You can go to the ILS Advisors Fund Index, and this is going to track the performance of non life insurance linked securities. And it provides investors with a broadly diversified benchmark that captures the returns of ILS fund managers across different investment strategies and risk return profiles. So, this is going to give you a very general view of how reinsurance strategies are going to work. And at least 70% of the assets in these funds that it takes are in non life risk. So a lot of these are going to be cat bonds. It's not pure cat bonds, but that's okay because this is in the spirit of, you know, test something that has a little bit weaker return when you're doing a back test, so you can temper your expectations and not look at the past through rose-colored glasses and think, wow, this thing's going to be incredible in the future. It's always better to be pleasantly surprised than unpleasantly surprised. And that's why I like to make my back tests weaker than the actual strategies that I'm using so that they can pleasantly surprise me. So, how do we get this? Well, there's a few ways. I mean, it's produced with Plotly, right? So there's an underlying table. You can take, one by one, each of these data points. You can type them into a spreadsheet. You can do that. I mean, that's how I first started doing these things years ago. But there's a little bitty shortcut. And that shortcut's name is Claude. So what I'm going to ask Claude to do is take the index performance chart and turn the underlying data into a CSV file formatted for upload into testful.io. And you're definitely going to want to check what it does because this is AI and sometimes it's like a drunken monkey hammering at a typewriter. So it's going to ask me to approve this plan. It's going to read the Artemis page to locate the ILS Advisors Index Performance Chart. It's going to determine the expected CSV input format, a date and value price column, chronological order, and then convert it and then present it. So I'm going to approve the plan and it's going to chug through its thinking. And rather than force you to sit here and watch Claude do stuff, this is, of course, not another AI tutorial. I'm just going to cut to the next part. All right, so once you get back to the portfolio backtester on testful.io, just click My Workspace. And now we're going to upload our CATSIM. And I already did it earlier, but I'm going to do it again. I'm going to delete this and I'm going to do it again, just for the sake of demonstration. So I'm uploading the CSV. I just drag and drop the ILS Advisors Fund Index CSV file that I got from Claude and verified, and I'm going to call it CATSIM. And the base ticker, it's not going to have one because it's its own thing. And this is going to be the ILS Advisor Fund Index. And I'm uploading it as a price series because it's got total return, it's got the date, and then it's got the total price on that date. That includes dividend payments from the index. The currency is US dollars, and everything else looks good. So we're just going to hit upload, and there we go. Now we can test it out because now that it is uploaded, we can just go ahead and enter it as CATSIM. Oops, not 118%, 100%. We're not doing leveraged cat bonds. And you can see that the shape of the graph, everything came out great. We've got monthly returns here, and we've got them going back to 2006, so not bad, right? And again, what I love about this is it actually underestimates performance because the ILS Advisors Index is not pure cat bonds. It's got a lot of other stuff in there that isn't as well isn't as lucrative as cat bonds can be, but this will allow us to take our Atlas portfolio and instead of CBYYX SIM that uses that proprietary Swiss Re Cat Bond Index that you can get if you're lucky and you know who to ask, or you pay a lot, but it's going to be frozen in time. CATSIM, you can always go back and get that ILS Advisors Index Fund anytime you want from Artemis and update it. But let's go ahead and take a look. So you can see that it didn't actually make that big of a difference, even though the two indices themselves are quite different. So I'll show you just for sake of demonstration here. Put CATSIM and CBYXM side by side so you can see them. So while they don't have a large impact on the overall strategy, you can see that they actually are quite different from each other. Very much a similar shape, but beyond that, yeah, you could tell that CATSIM is including a lot of different kinds of insurance-linked securities, typically ones that are a little low yielding, but probably closer to um, safer bets in a lot of cases. So the compound annual growth rate between the two is about 2.2% difference. Important to note. But the cool thing about this is it gives you kind of a worst case outlook. And if I map it against CBYYXM and CATSIM and ILS, you can see that right now CBYYX, CATSIM, ILS, they've kind of swapped places, right? And that's just year to date, or actually since April 2025. It doesn't mean that much, but again, I like the fact that you can go get CATSIM and use it in backtests because sometimes in some years, the actual funds may actually perform worse than CATSIM. And CATSIM may look like it's awful going back in time, but it's always good to have that awful comparison just so you can be prepared. So again, CBYYX versus CATSIM. We can look at just the history of CBYYX, and you can see CBYYX is doing better over its whole history, kind of just touching being in line with CATSIM right now, but most of the time it's above. But see, it's really great to have a variety of index approaches that you can backtest so you can see the general shape of your strategy, especially in an area where returns vary as much as they do in the realm of cat bonds. CATSIM, even if you can't get the actual Swiss Re Cat Bond Index, will give you a fairly good general idea of how a cat bond strategy works over time. And I mean, that's that's what we want from a back test. We can't ask for much more than that other than a good degree of confidence about what will happen. Thank you for watching Miller Momentum and for being so patient and gracious and enthusiastic about back tests. Hey, I'm glad I'm not the only unusual one out there who loves back testing old funds and new funds alike. Anyway, hit that like and subscribe button and be sure to leave me a comment. Maybe you want to see me try and reconstruct something a little tricky, a little challenging. Oh, and by the way, I have a Patreon now, and I'm setting up two tiers on Patreon. There's a $3 tier if you want to join me for a little chit chat, a video get together on the third Saturday of every month. Time to be announced. And if you'd like to just generally support the channel, you can chip in $1, and maybe someday I'll have enough dollars to get myself a Bloomberg terminal account so that I can download indices to my heart's content and show you how those indices backtest. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be bound by the terms and uses of that so that I can't share the indices directly, but I can sure put them up on screen. Anyway, until next time, let's keep on rolling with Miller momentum.